Hey, this is Hans from Request for Music, and I'd like to introduce a new module of mine, which is called Slices to be exact. So I've got an setup here with a couple of LFOs, and attenuator and delay and reverb because I want to put it through some reverb. And I'll put it on screen. Here it is, Slices, the new module. And Slices is a module to cut and sort of paste or restructure waves out of a positive and a negative portion. So you see a cut oscillator, which is the top row. You see the positive wave and you see the negative wave. And I've put in a multi-oscilloscope by Weevil to show you what it does. So if I take this output in, it looks like there's only one sine wave, but in fact there's two of them, the positive and the negative side. So that means that if I dial up the detuning for my negative side, you'll see that it changes within that portion. And so what the top half and the negative half are doing are arranged by the positive and a negative part, where you have the sine, triangle and sawtooth options, so you can dial in a sawtooth to get another kind of wave there. And you have a phase setting that you can change. So that goes the same for the tuning on the bottom part, and the cut oscillator can be tuned, and that tunes both of them together, as you can see. But apart from that, you've got fine tuning and you've got an octave switch. That obviously means that it's going to change everything there. And you got a slice setting, and a slice is actually, or let me explain it a bit different. I'm going to take out the slice portion of the oscillator, and you'll see that that is actually a square wave or a pulse wave that you can set the pulse width of, and the pulse width decides how much of the positive and the negative side are used. And apart from that, there's a width part that changes that pulse wave, so you can get a different part of those waves. And so that's basically it. And apart from that, there's different modes, but this is mode 0 in the bottom half. And apart from that, you have obviously an output level that changes everything. So this is an overall output, whereas you can set the separate sine parts of the top and bottom, or dial in a triangle or that kind of stuff to see what that sounds like. And this is basically it, apart from the mode settings that you can have segments and patterns in, and there's an edge to keep it as sort of a hard cut between positive and negative side. And this is a softer one, but it's all arranged with the width, which has sort of a double function. Apart from that, you have a pitch input on the top, and there's 8 modulator inputs, where the modulators can have any of these settings. So you have a slice setting, which obviously changes the slice, a threshold, a positive detune and negative detune, the phase for both, and the pattern. That's the other kind of things that we have a look at later. The mode segments, the width, which is actually this knob that you're sort of setting the value of. And there's the an edge that you can also change, that soft or that hard cut thing. The cut tuning, that's the tuning of the top oscillator. And apart from that, there's a positive negative mix that you can do. You can also use a clock, and the clock is to be used in mode 3, where you have those patterns that will be arranged by this clock in that case. An FM setting, stereo spread, and the volt per octave settings for position, or sorry, positive, negative, and the cut oscillator. So you can use sequences, for instance, to send through that. Otherwise, the normal detuning has the same sort of value as this have, which is lower than volt per octave. So that's it. So let's just take the outputs into my delay, and so as you can here. I'll dial this back, so I have sort of a sine wave. There's already some. I'll reset everything and go back a bit. It's a bit distorted at the moment, I guess. So we got this, and of course I can change now the slice, which changes the sound. I can change the width, which also changes that sound. So that's basically what it does. And as I said, you have a phasing which also changes the waves, and obviously you can set a detuning for each part of those. I'll reset it first. And here we're back. Sorry for the loudness. In the meantime, let's see how the level is. It's a bit high. I hope I'm better understandable. Like this, I'll put it a bit lower. So slices can be set those ways, and as I said, most of the time I'll probably want to do something with modulation, or at least I can do something with spreading. As you can see now, I'll put that one in the third one, and I'll put this signal, my right signal there, so I can then see that those are the positive and the negative waves. And let's dial this to be a sine wave, for instance. So this gives a kind of wave that you can modulate to create sounds with. So I have an LFO, I have an attenuator, so I can put this in and, for instance, take this stereo spread and modulate that. And maybe I want the width to be adjusted as well, so I'll take the width and dial this in and lower. Take the spread a bit back. And maybe I also want to adjust the slice by using a modulation, so I'll take this in and take the slice out of this. So something like that. I'll dial it back for a while. So that's something that you can do easily. I'll take this back to none, so there's no modulation going on, and it stays at some space. It doesn't automatically reset, so that's something that I might have to change at some point. I'm not sure about that, but it sticks to the last settings. Apart from this, I have different modes. So the lowest mode is mode 0, is sort of the original way of taking these waves and working with those, as you can see. So that means that if I don't have that, I'll take all of these out for a while. Now I have this. I can take that slice and that width to change the sounds, especially when you have combinations with sines and saws and that kind of stuff. If I go into mode 1, I'm actually in pattern mode, and pattern mode means that I have different patterns to go through, and it's actually switching from one to another. And I use the pattern switch for that, and I use this segment which changes the way that it handles those, and I can just go around using those and also can drive those if I wanted to. So I'll have to look for some values. And the nicest part in the end is that mode has a third mode, and in this third mode I can actually use a clock setting where I can send something like maybe just a square wave or something. Let's take this one, I'll take that one out, and this decides which parts to play, sort of, and the width and all that kind of stuff helps with it, and other sounds, and the spread also works with it in that case. And as I said, especially with working with those modulations, you can really get very weird things, because one of the nice things is if you modulate the actual tuning of, for instance, the oscillator. I mean, normally when I take the input and take it to a pitch, it's obviously listening to my keyboard, right? So if I'll dial this up, I will get that, but actually now I can also take this in, put it into my positive voltage. So now it's actually only going to oscillator 1, the positive oscillator, and if I say I want to take the same pitch out, but I'll send it to negative detune instead. You hear that's a different, it's not a volt per octave, so it sounds different. So you can do stuff with that, and you can even use a sequencer to drive all of that. So I've played a bit around with some settings. So let's listen to some of the sound. This would be sort of a pad sound, or a large detuned and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of stuff going on. The width might be a bit too heavy on this, so I'll dial it back again. So in this case I have modulation on the slice, modulation on the cut tuning, so that's the detuning of the cut oscillator, of the width of the phase positive and the negative phase. So that's the kind of sound that you can get by using that. And let's switch the delay and reverb off, so you hear that. Even then it sounds pretty fat. And actually, last things are the blue buttons here that switch off the tracking. So that means that now it's obviously listening to control voltage when it's coming in through the main input. But if I switch it off, then that oscillator will remain at its set position. So you can even work with that. But let's go through some of these patches that I made. So this was a verse rhythm kind of thing. So this is one where I already had 2 sequencers. I have this steps module that includes 4 parallel driven sequences that you can take the pitch out of. So I'm taking the pitch into the one into the negative and into the positive volts per octave, so I can get 2 melodies out. And you can actually go beyond that. I went further, and I think I've tried something with where I use the third one to also drive the cut voltage per octave, so I got 3 oscillators, and this is in mode 0 when it's standard. As you can see, it's not taking in anything as standard pitch, so I'm not driving it straight from my keyboard. This is just the sequences running. In the next one, I've included some noise that is also driven by the same sequencer. So for the rest, it's, as far as I know, not much of a change. In the next one, I included a next sequencer, or I used the same steps module, but I used a different sequencer to drive a combination of an oscillator, ADSR, and a filter to get that extra bass. And in this last one, I use a clocked output from that same steps. I use the gate to drive this clock and use a different mode, and this sounds a bit cleaner. And as you can hear, the pattern has an effect on what the actual sequences are doing. So yeah, that sort of gives you this kind of options that Slices has to offer. So you have left-right output, of course, and you have the positive wave, the negative wave that you can take out. You have the slice that you can take out. and yeah, all the other fun that you can use with the module. So I hope you like it, and there's obviously a 5 days demo, so you can always play around with it for a couple of days and try to see if this is something for you. And I hope you like it, and I'll see you in the next one. So cheers, bye bye.